Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I am recording this on October 17th. We're going to go over the Fox interview with Harris, and we're also going to go over some of the breaking news in the Middle East. It looks like the Israelis potentially killed Sinwar. That's a big, big event if that did take place. So we're going to cover that. Maybe some other news that may be popping up. Today might be an interesting day. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my work by donating. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. You can also be a paid member to my Patreon channel. It's through your donations and your paid membership to Patreon that allows me to do these videos for free. These videos I have thousands of videos that are for free. And these videos have information in it that helps to improve your health, be able to track the economy, give you my perspective on what's going on international affairs, so you can navigate through some of the crises that are happening in the world. Now, if you follow my protocol, you're going to start noticing that your health gets improved. All right. So I received a message on X. It was one of my videos, or a link to my anti-aging skincare box. I believe it was the beginner's box, but it could have been the advanced box. And this person goes, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it to you, what they said. All right. So let me find the actual post here. Okay. This was my anti-aging skin health advanced box. All right. And in that advanced box, you get the structural nanosilver gel, you get the vitamin C, the resveratrol, the collagen, and the C60. All right. How it works is that the gel is a topical that will help to improve your skin and tighten it. The collagen helps the dermal layer, and it cross-links with vitamin C when you drink it with filtered water. Like I said, if I can find it, the vitamin C will cross-link with it when you drink filtered water. And then when you take resveratrol, you're helping with the basal layer, and that's the layer that produces new skin cells. In addition, it also works well when you have a strong antioxidant like C60, and C60 soaks up those free radicals at the basal layer, so the cells that are being regenerated, the cells that are being regenerated from the basal layer will be healthier. So C60 is a strong antioxidant. So that's what's in that skincare package. So this person writes, Lisa Miller is her name. And she goes, "Who cares about anti-aging skin with all the doom you have professed? Seriously." I think I just call it how it is. And so I responded by saying, going to the grave looking your best is paramount. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get my anti-aging skin health boxes. You get collagen, you get the structural nanosilver gel, you get vitamin C, and in the advanced box, you also get C60 and resveratrol. They're very high quality products that help to improve your skin and improve your health. But all kidding aside, you need to take charge of your life, even in moments of stress and turmoil, and not to give up, just to keep moving forward. That's the point. Now, if you can't see that, then someone might have a psychological problem. but the thing is the whole point here is that you need to take charge of your health, even in tumultuous times. If you don't, who's going to do it for you? It's that simple. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and look your best before the end of the world. Now, okay, so let's. I wanted to play what's going on with Sinwar potentially being killed.
Let me tell you what $5 means to my campaign. allows us to contact thousands of voters in critical swing states. $5 keeps He's running through election day all the way through. If enough people chip in, $5.
Kevin, thank you so much for that report. And you are looking at a post here coming in on X from Jonathan Schanzer. He is with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. As always, we do speak to them live here on Live Now from Fox. And actually, Enya Corvine with their office will join us here in just about 40 minutes to break down the latest as the IDF is still trying to piece all of this together. Now, Jonathan does say, was the head of Hamas and architect of the 10-7 slaughter finally killed today in Gaza? The channels I track in Hebrew say Yahya Sinwar is very likely dead. The channels I track in Arabic give no real indication either way, and then says confusion. Now, again, if you are just joining us, the statement is pretty limited from the Israel Defense Forces and Shin Bet. They released this joint statement saying that they are checking into the possibility that they may have killed Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, during those operations in the Gaza Strip. The IDF saying that it did eliminate 3 terrorists, but the
just
remember,
Scott Ritter keeps on saying that Israel's losing and Israel's going to collapse. And it's news after news, day after day. A head person, a leader, an official within Hamas and Hezbollah is being killed. That doesn't sound like losing to me. That sounds like winning.
Cannot yet be confirmed. They are trying to piece all of this together as it did just happen not too long ago. The Israeli military does say in the building where the terrorists were eliminated, there were no signs of any hostages. And it's important to note that a lot of folks out there, a lot of military experts had said that Yahya Sinwar was likely surrounded by some of the more than 100 hostages that do remain. Those hostages, of course, taken more than a year ago on October 7th during that attack by Hamas on Israel, in which 1,200 people were killed and about 250 people were taken hostage. The forces, we're told, that are operating in the area are continuing to operate with, quote, the required caution as they work to figure everything out here. Again, this would be big, of course, because Yahya Sinwar is the head of Hamas, and he was the architect, so to speak, of the October 7th slaughter attack that did happen in Israel. Again, as we are waiting for the IDF to provide a little bit more information, we do expect we will hear from their spokesperson in just a little bit. However, not clear if it will only be in Hebrew or if a statement will be made in English. Now, also important to note that Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu will also likely speak if it does turn out that Yahya Sinwar is dead. A lot at this point still left to figure out, so we will have experts join us over the next several hours as we wait to learn more from Israeli military officials. And of course, once we do get any more information, we'll make sure to bring it to you right here on Live Now from Fox. Also do want to pop up this live image that we do have over in Han Yunis. This is, of course, over in Gaza as the war is now more than a year in following the attack by Hamas on Israel.
All right, so what I want to do is I want to drop into CNN. We're going to play CNN as this story is developing. This just happened. All right, so please, pay attention as this is developing here. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver gel. This is a dual purpose product. It will help to heal your skin. It will help cuts, abrasions, minor burns much quicker. Why? Because it keeps it clean. In addition, you can use it as a skincare, like I mentioned earlier. You apply it on your skin before you go to bed. You exfoliate in the morning. You'll notice your skin's clearer and tighter, especially around your face. In addition, you can use this to help neutralize pathogens. This is great to use during the cold season. Put it on your hands. It stays active for 5.5 hours or more. Put it around your mouth, around your nose, around your eyes, and around your ears. You can lightly coat your nostrils. By doing that, you're maintaining a mucosal barrier so you don't get sick. All right? It neutralizes pathogens and it's creating a barrier. It's creating a thicker barrier on your skin. So it's harder to contract something. All right? It's that simple. This is way better than Perel. Why? Because Perel is alcohol-based and it evaporates and it doesn't stay active for very long. All right. It does sanitize, but that's it. This stays active for more than 5 hours. And you can put it around your eyes and your nose and around your mouth. You can't do that with Perel. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver gel. You're going to need this during the cold season. Trust me. And then you'll get sick and you're going to go, oh my God, you know, maybe you should have had that in your medicine cabinet. Get the structural nano silver toothpaste. Doesn't have any fluoride in it. Why? Because fluoride makes you stupid. All right. Get fluoride out of your diet. Get fluoride out of your water. It makes you stupid. All right. In addition, this structural nano toothpaste will neutralize pathogens, whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, maintain that and improve your gum line, which is very important as you get older. And with good oral hygiene, you're reducing the chances of cardiovascular disease and you're reducing the chances of valvular disease. As we get older, we start seeing stenosis. We start having prolapses with the valves. And what happens is you get a little bit of irritation and calcium deposits will start on your valve, your heart valve, or you may get some sort of bacterial vagination that's taking place on the valve. That's really bad. All right. You need good oral hygiene. Trust me on this. Why do you think that there's so much calcification that goes on with elderly people? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver toothpaste. This is the best toothpaste you're going to be able to buy. Way better than anything that Alex Jones sells. So you might as well support Dr. Paul Cottrell than Alex Jones, because Dr. Paul Cottrell can tell you why stacking all these supplements actually helps your health, improves your endocrine system, it boosts up your immune system, reduces cardiovascular disease, and slows down the aging process. Alex Jones can't do that. And not only that, Alex Jones doesn't do it. It's very obvious because he looks 10 to 15 years older, and I'm older than Alex Jones. Amazing. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver soaps. Really important. Why? Because it neutralizes pathogens, doesn't have any of those fancy chemicals that Dove has. Why would you want all that fancy chemical stuff? You want to get rid of that. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver soaps. Charcoal tea tree. I also have it in lemongrass and 3 other varieties. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Like I said before, C60 is a very strong antioxidant. How does it work? C60 is a molecule. It's a 60 carbon molecule that soaks up free radicals. Way more potent than vitamin C or even resveratrol. Why? Because they can only soak up 1 free radical. This can soak up hundreds of free radicals at a time. All right, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This is extremely potent. Take a teaspoon a day. You can get it in extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, or MCT coconut oil. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. Take it every day, take a teaspoon a day, and it's going to soak up those free radicals. That's really important because what happens is it's going to reduce the stress in the cell. And by reducing the stress in the cell will perform better. In addition, it's going to boost up the health of the mitochondria. That means you're going to have more ATP. You're going to need ATP for good cellular processes, for your endocrine system, for your immune system, and for good neural health. Take this. Trust me, it'll slow down the aging process. And what will happen is that the cell will be healthier and your tissues will be healthier. And that you'll get this compound effect by taking these different strong antioxidants that I provide on my store. What will happen is you're going to be slowing down the aging process, boosting up your immune system. Take the C60 every day. And since we're in the cold season, I think you're going to need some lozenges and drops. I have Manuka honey lozenges in a 21 count, structural nano silver, neutralizes pathogens, it creates those secretions and maintains that mucosal barrier so you don't get further infection. If you mitigate it right away, you reduce your chances. I also have drops, honey and lemon. I have it in cherry, and I also have it in blueberry in a 100 count. The drops are smaller than the lozenges, but they're just as good. And the thing is that it'll neutralize pathogens because it has the structural nanosilver and those secretions that you're creating with those lozenges. And because it's structural nanosilver, it's maintaining that mucosal barrier. So it's trying to prevent further infection. You don't want infection. The average person gets a cold 3 times a year. The average person has a mild cold that lasts 5 to 7 days. It takes 3 weeks after you get rid of your cold for your body to remodel from the effects of the cold. That's assuming mild. If you have a severe cold where there's a lot of respiratory problem, it takes you more weeks to remodel. And if it's chronic, you can start having, bronchitis issues and everything else. So it's really important to try to get it right at the source, right when you start feeling that irritation. Because if you can reduce the chances and the severity of colds throughout the year, then you don't have to go through the whole tissue remodeling. Now, the average person wastes 25% of their year either in sickness because of a cold and the remodeling effects after the cold. 25%. Why? Because 1 week for the cold and 3 weeks to remodel to get back to baseline. And then that's happening 3 times a year. So that's 4 weeks for each episode. And there you have 3 episodes. So what's 4 times 3? 12. All right. So 12 weeks of your year is going through a sickness, a mild cold, and remodeling. And when that's happening, your body can't fight other things like cancers and other ailments that you may be having. And your immune system is focused on remodeling and focused on trying to fight the cold. And so now you're surprised that you're year after year, you're aging, and it gets worse over time, and the aging speeds up. But if you can mitigate that, then you're aging slower. It's all about neutralize pathogens, soak up those free radicals, because when you're sick, you produce a lot of free radicals, trust me. And then you want to bring down pro-inflammatory cytokines. Because the American diet, American stress, we have way too high cortisol levels, and we have a high profile, a high pro-inflammatory cytokine profile. You don't want that. That makes you sick. Neutralize pathogens, soak up those free radicals, bring down pro-inflammatory cytokines. Really simple to slow down the aging process and boost up your immune system. Now, you can take my advice or not take my advice. I don't really care. But what I say works. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Right now, the Israeli military is investigating whether the leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, was killed in a strike in Gaza. Israel considers him the mastermind behind the October 7th terror attacks. Let's get right into this. Let's go straight to CNN Jeremy Diamond in Tel Aviv. Jeremy, what more are you learning?
Well, Jim, this would be an earth-shattering development if indeed it is confirmed. The Israeli military says that they have killed what they describe as 3 terrorists in the Gaza Strip, one of whom they believe may be Hamas's leader, Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the October 7th attacks that set off this year-long war inside the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military is saying in a statement that, quote, the identity of the terrorists cannot yet be confirmed. They are also saying that this apparently happened in a building above ground in Gaza, which is extremely notable given the fact that the working assumption had been that Sinwar was hiding in tunnels for much of the last year. They also say that there are, quote, no signs of the presence of hostages in the area. Now, Sinwar has been, of course, a central figure in this war over the course of the last year. Not only did he greenlight the October 7th attack that set off this war that has now seen 1,200 Israeli civilians killed on that day, on October 7th, 1,200 Israelis, I should say, sorry, the majority of whom were civilians, but also, of course, more than 41,000 Palestinians have now died in the Gaza Strip, killed for sure by Israeli bombs and bullets. But make no mistake that Sinwar also bears some share of responsibility for launching this war. And certainly we have seen growing expressions of anger, including by Gazan civilians who have increasingly blamed Sinwar in the aftermath of Israeli airstrikes for the continued suffering, as they believe that he was hiding underground. We will see how this actually impacts the continuation of this war, and of course beyond that, whether or not this could perhaps make ceasefire and hostage negotiations easier to actually achieve, or whether instead the chaos that is likely to follow within Hamas following his potential death, whether or not that will make the situation worse. Jim.
All right, Jeremy Diamond, keep us posted. Thank you so much. We've got a lot of people to talk to about this. Let me bring in CNN political and global affairs analyst Barak Ravid. Barak, your sense of things right now, obviously, as Jeremy was saying a few moments ago, there are massive implications if Sinwar is indeed dead.
Yes, definitely. And I think it's highly likely that he is. There's no official statement by the IDF yet, but all the people I talk to say that he's dead. There are pictures of his body. I think everybody who takes a look at those pictures, it's clear to him that it's him. We're just waiting for the official statement. And, Yahya Sinwar was the mastermind of the October 7th attack. He is the one that decided to do it. He is the one that launched this attack that killed 1,200 people, most of them civilians, kidnapped 250 people. 43 Americans were killed in this attack. 12 Americans were taken hostage. This attack led to the most devastating war in not only in Gaza's history, but in the history of the Palestinian people. With
Think
more
about
than
this.
40,000
Think
people
about it.
dead. Most of
Sukkot just started last night, okay? All right, and that's where Jews go into these little huts that they build, and they, shake, 4 different species, which is like a esrog, which kind of looks like a lemon, and a palm branch and some leaves, right? So they, we shake this, say a special prayer, and we shake it in different directions. Now, each of the species represents a different type of Jew. So the esrog, I don't know them all, but the esrog is smells and tastes, right? So it's a type of Jew that is knowledgeable in Torah and does mitzvahs. And then there are other species that don't smell or taste, which would mean they don't study Torah and they don't do mitzvahs. And then there's some that taste but don't smell, which means that they do mitzvahs, but they don't really know the Torah. And then there are some that smell but don't that smell but don't taste, and and so there's these 4 types of Jews. All right, I don't know which species is which, except the esrog and I think it's the palm branch. But yeah, but the whole point here is that you're shaking it in all directions. All these different types of Jews are working together. All right, you got to remember this motherfucker, this Sinwar, this motherfucker. He's the one that orchestrated October 7th. All right, this is the motherfucker that did it. And we are now in Sukkot, and it was at the end of Sukkot when we go into Simchas Torah. All right, when October 7th last year happened. Now, Jews work on a lunar calendar, not a solar calendar, so the days of the week don't match up 100%. So Simchas Torah is coming up. I think it's on the 24th or 25th, but it'd be a glorious fucking day to knock this motherfucker out during Sukkot.
civilians. And it all happened because of the decision of one man to launch this attack. So I think that this is, again, I still want to say that there's a slightest chance that maybe it's not him, although I don't think so. But, if he is indeed dead, this is a dramatic moment for this war and a dramatic moment for the region. And it opens up the way for hopefully ending the war and moving on a new direction.
And Barak, yes, we all remember the horrendous images that came out of the October 7th attack. I mean, it's going to be impossible, I think, for anyone really to erase those images from their minds. anytime soon. And I'm just curious, what kind of pressure does this put on the Israeli government to perhaps wind things down? Is there any appetite with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, to do just that? What's your sense of that?
My sense that Netanyahu waited for exactly that moment, for this, victory picture, at least in Gaza. When you take out Yahya Sinwar, you can say I won, even though Hamas hasn't been wiped out, it still exists. The situation in Gaza is super, super problematic for Israel, and there's no day after, realistic day after plan. But for Netanyahu politically, in Israeli politics, inside his coalition, he can now say, we won. And therefore, we're ready to move on another path, on a hostage deal, on ending the war, on trying to find, a political solution to the current situation, and not just continue on with this perpetual war.
Let me bring in CNN's Alex Marquardt. He is in studio with me. Alex, you follow this very.
But the thing is that Iran is still supporting Hamas and Hezbollah. Now, Hamas is getting killed. I mean, Hamas is collapsing now. If they got Sinwar, it's going to collapse. Hezbollah is still a problem, and Iran's still a problem. So, like I said, you got to knock out Hezbollah, you got to knock out Hamas, and you got to knock out the theocratic regime in Iran and destroy their nuclear capability so the region can get into homeostasis and be in peace. Now, the way this has been dictated in texts that are thousands of years old is that Israel's going to get bigger. All right, compared to what the borders are right now, and that most likely the Palestinians will get Gaza, but they're not going to have the West Bank. Now, there are going to be individuals that are actually Israeli that are not Jewish, that are Muslim and Christian, that want to be part of Israel. But there isn't like this Israel proper that's going to be Palestine. That is never going to fucking happen. That's never going to happen. All right. So Israel's going to get bigger. Now the question is, does it get bigger now, or is this one stage for some other bigger event? The border system is going to snap back to the inscribed parts that are written in Numbers and Ezekiel. Now the question is exactly where the border is. That's a gigantic discussion with the rabbis, and but the border system is going to get bigger. All right, and there's supposed to be a temple that's built, and that means that peace is brought down on the earth. All right, and that whole region becomes very prosperous. Now you can kind of sort of sense it with the alignment between Ishmael and Jacob, Israel and Saudi Arabia. All right, you can kind of sense it. You can also sense on how other nations may go to war with Israel, lose, and the border system goes back to the biblical times. You can kind of see that starting to emerge. So let's stop pretending that just knocking out Sinwar is going to stop the whole event, because to get the job done, Hezbollah and the theocratic regime in Iran needs to be destroyed. Don't stop. Just keep on moving forward.
This has big implications on our diplomatic front as well. I mean, we know the president right now is traveling. He has the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, with him. He has the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. And one of the things that we have heard time and again from Secretary Blinken through all of this is that one of the big impediments to getting some kind of deal that would release the hostages and perhaps start bringing this thing toward the ceasefire and a conclusion is Sinwar. He's been pretty. I mean, as much as there's criticism for Prime Minister Netanyahu, Blinken has made it very clear Sinwar has been a huge obstacle in all of this.
Yeah, when you listen to U.S. officials, particularly the last few weeks, talk about the possibility of a ceasefire in Gaza, they essentially put Netanyahu and Sinwar on equal footing, saying it's not clear whether either of them has the political willingness to strike a deal. Now,
They're making a mistake. It's not these individual conflicts. Iran and Israel, Iran or Israel and Lebanon, or Israel and Syria, or Israel and Gaza. They're all one. They're all connected. It's one gigantic war.
Often hear U.S. officials say that Hamas really is the impediment. Hamas has been changing the terms. We know that Netanyahu has also been changing the terms. Now, if Sinwar is off of the battlefield, a lot of the onus moves to Netanyahu. And he has a moment here, U.S. officials believe, where he can declare victory. He can say, we have decimated Hamas. We've taken 14, 15,000 of their fighters.
Yeah, let's just
We've taken out
politically
their highest political and
expedite
military
this all
expert.
and just
Sinwar would be the head of the military wing, Mohammed Deif, and his deputy Marwan Issa. So U.S. officials who I've been speaking.
What about Hezbollah? What about the Houthis? What about the Ayatollah?
But this morning, no doubt see this as a moment where they could jumpstart the ceasefire negotiations that have been completely stalled in the water for the past few weeks. And more importantly, Jim, for months, the U.S. administration has seen the end of the war in Gaza, a ceasefire in Gaza, as the key to unlocking so much more, not just getting the Israeli hostages home, not just getting that critical aid into the Gaza Strip for the hundreds of thousands of people who are suffering so much in Gaza, but also ending the confrontations that Israel is facing with Hezbollah to the north in Lebanon, the increasing attacks by the Houthis in Yemen, as well as other proxy groups. So this really is could be a pivotal moment for not just the war in Gaza, but so much of these growing and brewing conflicts.
Yeah, and not to mention the tensions with Iran as well, which has been on the rise, of course. And CNN's Arlette Saenz is over at the White House for us. And Arlette, if you can pick up on that point.
See, this is a mistake that these reporters make. They think that the whole problem is Israel. That Israel started this whole thing. Israel didn't start all this. What it is that they don't want Israel there. They don't want Israel to exist. Iran doesn't want Israel to exist. The Palestinians want all of Israel. They don't want piece of it. They want all of it. You think that's gonna? Yeah, that's good. It's called war. Whoever wins wins. Period.
One, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said at the outset of all of this that one of the goals was to crush Hamas. Taking out Sinwar obviously gets him to that goal by and large. What might be the domestic political implications in all of this? It sounds like the White House is saying that they see this as a goalpost for Netanyahu and for the Israelis.
Yeah, U.S. officials have long viewed the potential death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar as a potential game changer and their best chance to potentially bring an end to this conflict in Gaza, but also trying to tame some of the other tensions in the Middle East. Now, so far, the White House has yet to say anything publicly. They are likely waiting to see if the IDF does confirm that they killed Sinwar in operations within Gaza. But it would have major implications for the Biden administration, as they have spent the better part of the last year trying to find an end to this conflict. Now, officials have long viewed Sinwar as one of the major obstacles to achieving a ceasefire and hostage release deal. Just on Tuesday, National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby had said that there were no fresh negotiations underway and that Sinwar had shown no signs of wanting to have any serious discussions on this matter. So officials will be watching this confirmation if it comes very closely, and also trying to determine what it means not just for the war in Gaza, but also for the broader attention in the Middle East. But it also does come at a time when the situation in the Middle East, and specifically the war in Gaza, has been a major political issue in this 2024 campaign. It dogged President Biden as he was running, and it's now an issue the Vice President Kamala Harris continues to face, as there has been growing discontent among some people, including young voters, Arab American and Muslim American voters, about the administration's handling in this conflict. So we will see how exactly a potential death of Sinwar might play in the political season. But certainly this is something that the White House and officials across the administration will be watching closely. President Biden is on a plane to Germany for about the next 6 hours. He's on that plane with Secretary of State Antony Blinken and his national security
All
advisor.
right, let's go to Al Jazeera and find out what's going on. But as the world goes up in flames, you want to make sure that your skin is nice and pretty. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. It has a great amino acid profile, as I'm showing on the screen here. This will help with your bones, your skin, your joints, your ligaments, your tendons, your cartilage. Really important. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take the collagen every day. You get a big scooper. You mix it with your food. You can mix it with water. Some people mix it with milk. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen peptides. It's a very high quality product. Also, go to my store and get the multivitamin. Multivitamin is really important as cofactors for enzymatic activity. If you don't have enough, if you don't have the right concentration of vitamins and minerals, you're going to have subpar cellular processes. So please go to my store, get this multivitamin, take it every day. It's easy to digest. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And lastly, I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we've created these great all-natural deodorants for males and females, peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, and also citrus. These deodorants are made from essential oils from the Himalayas. It's all natural. It has no aluminum, no baking soda in it. This is for males and females, and it's a dual purpose product. You use it as a deodorant, but it also will help to detoxify your body. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get a couple bars for your household. This is a very high quality deodorant made from very high quality ingredients. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right, what's going on in Al Jazeera?
Now, Hamas had the vitality, if you will, to name new leaders. Now, there is no doubt that it's a blow to Hamas that both Haniya and Sinwar, if in fact he is assassinated, to have been assassinated in such a short time, while Hamas is fighting for its life on the life of Gaza this year.
There's 3 or 4 main characters that keep on saying that Israel's going to collapse. He's one of them, and Scott Ritter's the other. And there are 2 others that we'll talk about later. I don't think Israel's in the collapse.
History tells us, at least a number of decades, that each and every time one militant is killed, 5 step up to take his place. We've seen that happen again and again and again. But why does that happen again and again? Is it just because...
Why it happens is because Israel doesn't get the full job done. They keep on kicking the can down the road because they placate to the whims of the international community and the expedience, the political expedience from the United States. Get the job done. They should have got it done in 67, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, the 2010s, and now it's time to get it done in 2020, in the 2020s. Why? Because Iran is getting really close to a nuclear weapon, and that's not good for anybody.
The Palestinians, something exceptional about the Palestinians? No, not at all. We've seen that happen in other resistance movements around the world. We've seen that happen through history. In the case of Sinwar, in the case of Hamas, in the case of Palestine, look at the 3 ingredients that made a Hamas leader like him or like Haniya. 1, refuge. They were kicked out of their homeland after 1948, and he was born to a family of refugees in a destitute in the Gaza Strip. That's 1. 2, he lived his entire life, most of his life, since he was 5, he lived under occupation, under a military Israeli occupation, basically all his life. And 3, he spent more than 20 years in Israeli prisons. So imagine, you have this Palestinian character, right? It's not.
And he's a bad dude. But Sinwar's a bad dude. Hopefully he's dead. I think he is. But hopefully he's dead. But the Israelis, I think it was when he had cancer or he had some major medical problem, maybe he had an aneurysm, I forgot what it was. They gave medical treatment. So Israel isn't all bad.
It's not fictional. It's real, and it's as real as thousands upon thousands of other Palestinians, whether they are Hamas or Hamas. They're born into a family of refugees in Palestinian refugee camps under Israeli military occupation, spent years and years in Israeli prisons. What do you expect of them?
And that's because the PLO and their terrorist activities. Do you remember the 80s? Do you remember the 90s? When there were buses being blown up in Europe and in Israel? You remember that? I do. See, the problem is that Hamas is just an appendage of the PLO. Now let's take a look at this. The Palestinians are really Jordanians. All right. Now, the Jordans didn't want them. Why? Because the PLO was trying to overthrow the king at the time. And so he kicked them out. So they've always had a problem because of the terrorist activity of the PLO.
Are being indoctrinated, yes, they get indoctrinated by this or that resistance group within Palestine, and then they make it up the ranks. Sinwar, like other Hamas leaders, made it up the ranks and became the head of Hamas. There are, I would say, hundreds after him now that basically pass the same pathway as he did, and will probably more than happy to take the mantle after him, because in Hamas, as you see, there is a very simple code, if you will, for the group. It's either victory or martyrdom. Victory.
Now, it's so interesting that the one that's speaking here seems to like living in London, but he loves the Palestinians so much. Living the high life, right, in London? Interesting.
They know that it's going to have to end up with one another. A lot of them so far have ended up with martyrdom.
And I would suggest on top of that, Marwan, that you've got now many more entire generations who are willing to pick up that mantle, because they have been living through their childhood in war. They've been born into war. They've seen the most horrific destruction. Everyone has had at least one member of their family killed, injured in the Gaza war that is happening right now. So this is only going to continue.
Okay, so this is where there's a bit of a historical turning point, I would say, this year, and we will see, right? I mean, I'm not making any final determination, but let's take a quick, make a quick context of what you just said, which is, I think, is hugely important. Palestinians are not natured to be resistance fighters, as we just stated. They are nurtured. They are nurtured through refuge, occupation, and imprisonment to become resistance fighters. So as they are nurtured, the Israelis continue to try to cut them to size. They call that mowing the lawn. Every few years, they either attack a town, a refugee camp in the West Bank, or declare war on Gaza, kill a whole bunch of people, destroy a number of houses and schools and universities. And they've done that for the past so many decades. Every other year, they just do something like that, right? Because they want to cut them to size. They want to mow the lawn. Except that when you mow the lawn, if you have any idea about nature, you know, when you mow the lawn becomes thicker, greener, healthier, stronger, and so on and so forth. It doesn't get weaker when you mow it. In the contrary. And that's what had happened in Palestine over the past decade. Every time they mow the grass became stronger, Palestinian resistance becomes stronger. Now,
really,
why do I say we are at a turning point? Because what this dangerous genocidal Israeli government is trying to do is to say, look, we've tried mowing the lawn for so many years. It's time to burn the lawn. They are no longer talking about cutting down the lawn to size. Genocide, the meaning of genocide is you want to burn down the house. You want to destroy the entire Gaza Strip. And that's why I've said from the very beginning that Hamas was not the target. Gaza was the target. Hamas was the collateral damage because they wanted to destroy that possibility of any new generation taking up the mantle of this
Hamas embedded itself in the population, aka digging the tunnels underneath the hospitals. Or what about, putting weapon caches in schools? And so you have to go after Hamas. Of course, there's going to be high collateral damage because their mode of operandi is embed themselves in the population. So there's going to be high collateral damage. But he switches it around. The collateral damage is Hamas? What? These people are insane. Hamas? The death of Hamas is collateral damage? It's quite the other way around. Well, he lives in London. Lovely.
Killed right, left, and center. So what Israel is trying to do with the support of key allies in the West is to destroy Palestine, to burn it down to the ground so that grass, literally and figuratively, can grow no more.
Which is why this has been called a war against children, and also Gideon Levy saying that he believes Israel will stay in Gaza. For the moment, Marwan Bashar, many thanks indeed for joining us there from London.
Bashar.
Let's just take another look at who Yahya Sinwar is as we continue to cover this breaking news that the Israeli army radio is claiming he has been
I want to
killed
play
in
Israeli news,
Gaza.
see if they say
He's the
anything
man
about
that
what
Israel
they...
accused of masterminding the October 7th attacks. He was born in the Khan Yunis.
Shalom from Jerusalem. This is TV7's Israel at War update. And as we're set to deliberate the latest developments here in Israel, throughout the region and beyond, with chief focus today on 3 separate fronts, namely the one in the Gaza Strip, the one in Lebanon, as well as Iran proper, it's always important to remember how this war began. 377 days ago, on October 7th of last year, the Islamist Hamas and its terror affiliates in the Gaza Strip launched a surprise onslaught on southern Israel, declaring war by perpetrating a massacre, murdering some 1,200 mostly civilians, wounding over 4,800 others, and kidnapping roughly 250 people, including elderly men, women, children, and infants. 101 of them remain in Hamas captivity to date. The subsequent day, Iran essentially joined that war when it greenlighted its proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah, to launch cross-border attacks against Israel. Since then, this Iranian proxy has launched over 12,000 projectiles, and not Hezbollah alone. Additional Iranian proxies from Syria, from Iraq, from Yemen, as well as Iran proper, have launched direct attacks against the state of Israel. Let's now turn to our TV7 editor-at-large, Mr. Amir Owen. Amir, dramatic news today coming out of the Gaza Strip with confirmation potentially for the elimination of the leader of the Islamist Hamas, the one who initiated the October 7th massacre, namely Yahya Sinwar.
Indeed, Jonathan, while October 7th will go down in infamy as the day when Hamas and especially its leader Sinwar started this war, October the 17th, today, may indeed be remembered as the day Sinwar was killed. Now, as we are having this conversation right now, the Israeli Defense Forces have been double-checking, triple-checking, making sure that what has seemed like one of the 3 terrorists killed in a firefight, apparently it wasn't a targeted killing, but rather one of many such firefights in Gaza. One of the three terrorists was Yahya Sinwar. So obviously, if this is the case, there will be many questions. What about the hostages? The three were not surrounded by hostages as human shields at the time. If Sinwar is not there, who is authorized in Hamas to negotiate? Hopefully, they will not harm the hostages as revenge for the death of Sinwar. Many such questions to be asked and hopefully answered in the coming days. There is also, of course, the operation in South Lebanon. It has not been casualty-free. Israel has marked several losses over the last several days, and this is regrettably the price of the methodical uprooting of Hezbollah infrastructure from the area adjacent to the so-called blue line, the boundary between Israel and Lebanon.
Thank you, Mr. Olin. We will revert shortly to the Lebanese front, but first, let's turn to Central Israel, where we're joined by Colonel on Reserve Miri Eisen, a senior fellow at the Institute for Counterterrorism at Lifelong University in Herzliya. It's good to see you, Miri. I'd like to ask you particularly about what does it mean, Hamas without its leader, Yahya Sinwar, who has been radio silent for quite some time and has only recently relayed a certain message to Qatar. The Qatari Prime Minister just yesterday during a press availability at the European Commission in Brussels highlighted that there hasn't been any progress in negotiations for the release of hostages. Mr. Olin just mentioned a number of questions. Give us a little bit of an overview. What are we to expect?
Yahya Sinwar was not just the leader of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. In that sense, he was the mastermind of the October 7th attack, meaning what we've exposed in the different computer material that's been taken out of the Gaza Strip since the Israeli military operation inside the Gaza Strip has shown that this is something that Yahya Sinwar was planning together with a close-knit group of his brother and other close officials, terrorists. And so when he disappears, Jonathan, I literally, this is different than Hassan Nasrallah in its very odd way, because in this case, this was Yahya Sinwar's attack. This was Yahya Sinwar and his close advisors doing this horrific genocidal attack that you so clearly describe every time that happened on October 7th, 2023, and his disappearance changes the equation. It isn't now suddenly that they say somebody else steps in and makes the decisions. That immediately.
If you don't think that I'm right about what the Palestinians want with Israel's land, Sinwar is in a conference here. All right, this is an old recording. He was at a conference. I don't know when, right? Because this is archived. This is archived. All right, now if I can roll back. Hopefully. I can't find it. But he walks into a conference room and right up on stage where he's going to sit and talk to the people at the conference. There is a poster that's behind, and it shows all of Israel being for the Palestinians. See the problem that we have here? Now, obviously, the Palestinian land claim doesn't go to biblical precepts, all right? That's obvious, all right? Independent if you like that or not, that's the fact, all right? Biblical precepts say that that land's not the Palestinians. And nor did God, relinquish the claim, to the covenant to the UN. So, so I just, the point I'm making is that it's gonna, to reach homeostasis, you need absolute war in that region. And whoever wins, wins. So the Palestinians, fine. If it's Israelis, fine. But there needs to be war. And you're never gonna reach homeostasis until you have all out war. It's that simple.
Is first and foremost what happens with the hostages. When I say that nobody is there now to make those decisions, I strongly believe that it was Yahya Sinwar who both planned, who was the mastermind, and that the hostages were both for him a protection, but mainly they were a bargaining chip. And so the question is, who now makes those decisions? Who is the one who's looking at the bargaining chip? And in that sense, I look at that as the key issue right now. Who are the pressure points? Who is whoever's going to step in, do instead? And if this does bring about more of a disintegration of Hamas capabilities, I want to hope that it will bring about a possibility to do something with the hostages. I also want to bring up, because I'm always the one who does so, and I don't like to ignore it, that it can bring about a chaos and a revenge against those same hostages. So he's gone. That makes a huge difference. I want to hope that it can bring about a change when it comes to the hostages that Hamas still holds. I need to call out that there's the possibility that Hamas will do something terrible with the hostages right now.
Indeed. With that being said, of course, we do need to remember the fact that Hamas is utilizing the hostages as bargaining chips. And the question is whether or not they're going to just throw those bargaining chips in one way or another and lose additional ground beyond the devastation of losing their top leader, which is, of course, having an organization run just like a headless chicken. But let's now turn to Washington, D.C., where we're joined by retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmett, formerly an Assistant Secretary of State for Political and Military Affairs, among others. It's good to see you, General. I'd like to ask you particularly on this later announcement, what would the American reaction be to such a development, considering the fact that Hamas is a designated foreign terrorist organization, Yahya Sinwar is on its wanted list? Are there significant repercussions to such a reality in which now that CIA Director Bill Burns still heavily engaged in trying to reach some sort of cessation of hostilities for the Gaza Strip, will have to get more heavily involved in trying to figure out what are the right next moves from an American perspective?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's hard to say congratulations, but it is always good to see when justice is brought to terrorists like Yahya Sinwar, who's got so much blood on his hands. I agree with Colonel Mira that, in fact, the near-term question is what happens to the hostages. It's highly unlikely that Sinwar had not had this conversation, appointed a successor already, and what his plans were and what his hopes were for his successor after he got killed. Clearly, Sinwar knew that his days were numbered. It was only a matter of time before he was caught, and those conversations in the bunkers certainly had to be had. So I would suspect that on the sad issue of the hostages, the news probably comes sooner rather than later on their fate.
Indeed. Well, let's now turn to the northern front. Since
before we turn to the northern front, and hopefully Sinwar is dead, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and improve your gut health. It's really important. Gut health is related to skin health and brain health, liver health. Gut is a really important organ, all right? Maybe one of the most important organs. Well, your heart too, but the thing is that your gut's really important and it's underappreciated. Please take my probiotic. I either have it in veggie cap form or in powdered form, all right? You just saw me eat hummus. I took the powdered form. I just mixed it with my hummus, and I take it in the afternoon. So both are very high quality. Some people prefer the powdered version. Some people prefer just, taking the veggie cap form. But please take either one of these probiotics every day. Why? Because it'll help you to build up a good gut biome that will improve your digestion, that will improve nutrients absorption, they'll improve the mucosal layer within the inner lining of your gut. Your gut has a barrier, all right, that mucosal barrier, and in that there's bacterial colonies, and in different areas of your gut there are different compositions of bacteria because of the pH differences. But in addition, there are IgAs, which is a type of antibody. Well, if your barrier is thinner, or there's chronic inflammation of the inner lining of your gut, what will happen is you'll get leaky gut syndrome, you'll have problems with absorption, you may get infections more easier, and chronic inflammation of the gut can lead to cancers. All right, so intestinal cancers. So you don't want that. All right, you want to maintain that barrier and you have a good gut biome. With a good gut biome, you'll also have better metabolism because there's a better communication between your gut and your liver. And you'll also have better mood and mental acuity because of the communication between your gut and your brain. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get either one of these probiotics. They're very high quality and it'll reset your gut, and you take it every day and you're reducing that inflammation and you're getting healthier. By reducing that inflammation, by improving your metabolism, by improving that barrier within the inner lining of your gut, you're improving your immune system. Please take my advice and get these probiotics. Over time, as you are improving your gut and improving the foods that you eat by filtering your water and staying away from processed foods, you're going to notice that your skin is clearer too. Your skin is healthier and more vibrant. You age because of the diet that we have, and because of a big part of it is because of our gut. So please take either one of these probiotics, very high quality. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Boosting up your immune system is important. Take zinc and magnesium. It'll help to boost up your immune system. And if you're, let's say you have a cold, during the cold season, take a double dose. Make sure you drink it with filtered water. Lastly, lignans. It's a powder. You mix it with your food or with water, filtered water. Take it every day. There's a little scooper here. Lignans will help with your immune system. All right. And it will also help with your endocrine system. All right. Your hormonal health will improve for males and females by taking lignans, and your immune system will improve. All right. It brings down inflammation, and it also is an antioxidant. So please take this every day. All right. Boost up your immune system. You need that. You need that. We have endocrine disruption because of the foods that we eat, and you need to boost up your immune system, especially with the immune systems that have been trashed since 2020. All right. Take my advice. Get the lignans. All right. Let's go back and what's going on here.
For casualties, of course, there are also additional gains, additional operational achievements, tactical achievements along the frontier, but give us a little bit of a broader understanding of the various developments at hand.
Sure, but just one other note regarding Sinwar. Tomorrow, October the 18th, is the day Sinwar was released from Israeli jail back in 2011 in the so-called Gilad Shalit deal, in exchange for the Israeli soldier who was abducted in 2006. So he lived as a
That's
Hamas
an interesting
leader,
fact.
For 13 years.
So here's another proof positive that kicking the can down the road doesn't help. He was in jail. He was in prison in Israel, and they let him go for a hostage swap. Only years later to have October 7th happen. This is proof positive what I'm talking about. The only way to reach homeostasis for lasting peace is all-out war in that region, total war, total victory. Total war, total victory. the destruction of Hamas, the destruction of Hezbollah, and the destruction of the theocratic regime in Iran. That's how you're going to reach homeostasis, and the world will benefit from it. Just get the job done. Stop kicking the can down the road. Don't be afraid. Like the Rebbe said, don't be afraid. Don't listen to the international community. And don't be hubris. You do all those three things, you'll be blessed, and you're going to get the job done.
To the day. Now, in the north, there are two arenas. One is Beirut and its environs, and the other is South Lebanon, especially south of the Litani. Of course, there are other parts of Lebanon where Hezbollah has been entrenched, or where Iran has tried to transfer weapons and equipment, and Israel strikes those two. But the two important ones are the Lebanese capital, Beirut, and the area adjacent to the Israeli region, the Galilee. In Beirut, after a pause of some 5 days, there has been another strike at an underground facility that Hezbollah had in a residential area. And by the way, it echoed what CENTCOM has announced regarding its attack on Houthi targets in Yemen, including with B-2 bombers. And the message there was, we can come from anywhere, doesn't have to be in the Middle East, and hit underground facilities, no matter how deep and what the depth of the concrete is going to be. So this was Beirut. In South Lebanon, the Israeli Northern Command has been going from one place to another, to villages or so-called nature reserves, finding too many Hezbollah outposts, some above ground, some in apartments and villas, some underground, with a lot of equipment, motorcycles, of course, many munitions, missiles, guns, everything needed for the so-called Radwan force, the assault force, which prepared to spring out of these bunkers a few meters sometimes from the Israeli border and storm the Israeli villages, massacre the civilians there, try to occupy at least a part of Israel, plant their flag, get its picture, and wait for the IDF to push them back into Lebanon. So this particular operation, while not over yet, has been successful in both exposing and eliminating the Hezbollah capability.
Indeed. Colonel Eisen, a couple of days ago, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant traveled to the northern front. He was alongside, of course, the Northern Command Commander, Major General Oli Goldin, and they had a comprehensive discussion there with division commanders on the various modus operandi currently undertaken in Lebanon. One of the remarkable statements made by the Jerusalem top defense official was that any forward base of Hezbollah, any village that was utilized as a forward base by Hezbollah, so heavily fortified, developed into subterranean infrastructure, and with every house pretty much having various tools, military tools for such an offensive, which was just characterized by Mr. Owen, would be utterly destroyed. Come yesterday, suddenly we see a entire village being razed to the ground pretty much in the area of Kamala in southern Lebanon, something that, of course, trickled a lot of echo throughout Lebanon, and questions arise. Are we now going to destroy every village along the front lines? In reality, having all those villages, of course, similar infrastructure embedded in pretty much every house?
I wonder at this stage along the way what we do in that day after when UNIFIL, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, had an upgraded mandate from 2006 specifically to stop the entrance of weapons south of the Litani River. And what do we do right now with this enormous arsenal upon arsenal of weapons that, as Emil said, are both in open areas and, as you just said, inside towns and villages? I'm going to hope that we do not raise Lebanon. This is not about Lebanon. It is about the challenge of a failed state, Lebanon, that has no responsibility in the eyes of the world for anything, to have existing within it what is a state within a state that has this enormous terror army, and that this terror army is inside towns, villages, underground with all of these locations. I don't know of a right way to do it. I want to hope that we won't do it a wrong way. I do know that as an Israeli living inside my country, south of that, UN blue line, that I cannot live here knowing that a mile, 2 kilometers, 4 kilometers, 10 kilometers north of me are these enormous arsenals of weapons with every single type of weapon you can think of coming in from Iran with Russian letters, with Chinese letters that are just there, and surrounding them, and you haven't mentioned that, are almost 50 United Nations different posts that are throughout southern Lebanon. So I don't see us destroying southern Lebanon. I do see us trying to eliminate as much as the weapons as possible, to try as much as possible to expose it, to try to have the international community that has had all of these forces there all of these years actually acknowledge that they absolutely did nothing to prevent this.
129 both posts and installations of UNIFIL spread out throughout southern Lebanon, quite significant presence if one expects that this international mandate was supposed to observe and avoid the reality that existed at hand. But General Kimmett, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller, responded to a question on the raising of one of those villages along the blue line. He highlighted that the United
According
States...
to Israeli radio, they're saying that Sinwar was killed. Now, I think that needs further confirmation, but according to Israeli Army radio, it says the Hamas leader Sinwar has been killed.
Expects Israel to avoid targeting civilian buildings, albeit they situated above terror infrastructure or military infrastructure, both subterranean and within it. How does the United States expect that actually to happen in practice?
Well, first of all, I think that we've had this conundrum, as you have for years and years, that when the terrorists and insurgents, in the case of Iraq and Afghanistan, use protected areas for their military activities, by law and by UN regulations, they lose that protected status. Nonetheless, it never looks good when you're attacking a mosque or you're attacking a village. And that, of course, is one of those where, at least in our military, the target has to be so significant that not only you have to meet the strictures of international law, but you also have to meet the Washington Post test. So it's done reluctantly, it's done infrequently, but when it has to be done, it's done. Jonathan, I'd like to take 30 seconds to observe that strike inside of Yemen, because it is notable for a number of reasons. Number one, they did use B-2 bombers that can go anywhere around the world. Number two, they used weapon systems that could attack deep, hard and deeply buried targets. And number three, they were very clear to announce that in their public press release. And one wonders if that's not simply a message to the Houthis, but to Iran as well, that we've got not only the capability, but in the case of the Houthis, the intention to use those deep, hard and buried target capabilities. If that's not simply a message for the region, but obviously a message for Iran as well when it comes to their nuclear facilities.
Indeed. Well, I absolutely believe it was intended as a message to Iran, similar to the strike utilizing a Moab munition against the headquarters of Wilayat Khorasan in the Khorasan region north of Afghanistan, which was a signal to China and other adversaries in the region. Here too, utilizing a B-2 is simply put an overkill to the intended targets, and therefore it does also inform the Iranians that the United States has the capabilities and the tools at its disposal to degrade any infrastructure in Iranian hands. But with that, Mr. Owen, I'd like to ask you specifically. Yesterday, we saw the commander of the RGC, Hussein Salami, come out and declare during a funeral procession of the deputy commander of the Quds Force, who was killed alongside Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut earlier, that he is warning Israel and Israeli officials that the true promise 2, as they refer to the October 1st strike against Israel, was only a warning, apparently, and that neither Israel's aerial defense array nor that of the integration of the THAAD system right now in Israel would prevent Iranian offensive capabilities from penetrating and reaching their targets in a future attack, threatening that any
I want to
attack
jump
against
to Al Jazeera
Iran.
here for a second.
Being killed in Rafah. What are you hearing there about the possible circumstances surrounding his death?
Well, Laura, all what we have heard was completely from Israeli media reports, because in the past few hours, Israeli media reports were the gate of the news, not from the Israeli military, but also from Hamas, from the Gaza Strip. These media reports, had stated that Yahya Sinwar was killed along with 2 other militants inside one of the main neighborhoods of Rafah. They said that the body of that man that was found inside the building was completely matching the features and the description of Yahya Sinwar, and they said that the body has been transferred for examination in Israel, and the test of the result of the test will be within the next 4 hours. It means yet the Israeli military did not confirm whether it was the body of Yahya Sinwar or not. Until now, Hamas movement did not reveal any more details about the incidents in Rafah, or that body was confirmed for Yahya Sinwar or not. But apparently, these Israeli media reports also emphasizing that Israeli officials are saying that 90% of the results will be completely matching the body that is for Yahya Sinwar. But generally, till now, there's no any official confirmation on the ground for that. But the circumstances around the assassination, or what happened in Rafah, is that 3 Palestinian militants were observed and identified inside one of the buildings that in Tel Sultan neighborhood, and the army had been engaged in clashing with those 3 Palestinians. Also, 2 of field commanders were killed in the attack that Yahya Sinwar, as the Israeli media reports, claim that he was inside that building. But till now, Laura, as far as we know, that the situation is still a bit chaotic on the ground. We are still waiting for more confirmation. We cannot say 100% that he was Yahya Sinwar, but the general description matches the general shape of Yahya Sinwar. For Palestinians, Yahya Sinwar is a top military and political leader of Hamas movement. That the assassination, if it's going to be confirmed by the Israeli military, would be a big blow for the all sorts of ceasefire talks to be achievable on the ground, and even would be a big blow also for Hamas movements here inside the Gaza Strip, especially with the assassination of lots of Hamas leaders within the past few months, including Mohammed Deif, which is considered to be, or is considered to be, the top military commander for the military of Hamas, and now Yahya Sinwar is the most second wanted man in the Hamas organization here in the Strip.
Tarek, perhaps you can give us an idea as to who might be able to replace Yahya Sinwar. He was a towering figure in Hamas. He was head of the political bureau, he was head of the military as well. Is there any other person in Hamas who is likely to take his place?
Well, till now, it's unclear who's going to replace Yahya Sinwar.
All right, let's go back to Israeli news here. please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the resveratrol. This helps get rid of senescent cells. It's an antioxidant, so it's soaking up free radicals. In addition, it helps to support your mitochondria. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the resveratrol. It's part of my anti-aging protocol. I've been taking resveratrol for decades. So please take this resveratrol. It stacks well with C60 and ubiquinol. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Good night formula. The whole world is up in flames, and some people can't sleep at night. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the good night formula. Why? Because this will get you into 3 cycles of REM sleep on average, get you into that deep sleep so you can consolidate memory, filter out toxins out of your central nervous system, and you'll be well rested. And that means that you're mitigating the chances of dementia later down the road. There is a correlation between sleep deprivation, chronic sleep deprivation, and dementia when you get older. Now, it's not the only reason, but sleep is very important. Big part of it is because you need to consolidate memory and you need to detoxify your central nervous system. And it's through that deep sleep and the REM cycle sleep. So please go to my store and get the good night formula. All right? It has tryptophan and melatonin in it. Digestive enzyme complex, really important to help break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. All right? In addition, by taking this on a regular basis, you're reducing the load on your pancreas, because your pancreas secretes these enzymes to digest foods. But when we get older, our pancreas isn't as functional. So we want to kind of boost it, reduce a little bit of the stress on the pancreas. Really important as we get older. All right. In addition, this will help for you to absorb nutrients. If you work out, for you to recover better after your workout, take the digestive enzyme complex. In addition, it has proteolytic and fibrinolytic enzymes. Why is that important? Well, proteolytic enzymes will break up glycoproteins, and that was really important in 2020. And it's fibrinolytic because bromelain is in this compound. Well, why is that important? With bromelain, you're reducing the chances of overclotting. Really important after the 2020 crisis. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. And oh, by the way, this is synergistic with nattokinase. Lastly, get the Max 35 or Max 14. This is a structural nano silver liquid. What you basically do is you take a teaspoon a day, swish in your mouth, gargle, swallow. What it does is it neutralizes pathogens and maintains the mucosal barrier, and it also improves your oral hygiene. In addition, if you're, let's say, sick during the cold season, you're not feeling well, take a teaspoon or 2 a day until you get rid of it, until you get rid of your cold. But in essence, take it every day, all right? Teaspoon a day, neutralize pathogens, maintain that mucosal barrier. It's part of a way to boost up your immune system, all right? I've been taking this for over now 4 years. So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I've been taking it for over 4 years, every day. All right, so let's go to Israel news here.
Either in Iran or outside of Iran will be met with a decisive response. Is this yet again a display of sweat, such as we see on Naim Qassem, the Deputy Secretary General of Hezbollah in Lebanon?
These here are fighting words, as they used to say in the Wild West. And Iran is in the Wild East. If you look at it from an Israeli perspective, So that means that we are going to have True Promise 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's a franchise. So I don't think that the decision makers in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem are too concerned about such declarations. They are not going to be deterred. The Sinwar episode might change some minds in Israel because there is no need for two such important developments in the 2.5 weeks before the US election. So that may have some impact on timing, but Iranian threats do not carry too much value here.
Indeed. Colonel Eisen, in March earlier this year, we heard General Michael Kurilla, the commander of CENTCOM, speaking in the Armed Services Committee of both the House and the Senate, during the course of which he did highlight that the major issue of the Houthis holding a sophisticated or advanced weaponry and munitions is not necessarily the degradation of those munitions or the lacking intelligence to deal with that, but rather the fact that the Islamic Republic of Iran is the core principled source of all those munitions being delivered to the Houthis, and the need to basically block the Iranians from doing so. Was the B-2 strike a potential signal to the Iranians, as also General Kimmett has mentioned rightly? And do you think that that such a message carries any weight in Iran as opposed to the remarks by Salami in Israel?
The Middle East is very impacted by actions, not just by words. Words make a difference, ideology is out there. But there's no question that when you take action in the Middle East, that is something that is noted. I think that we, Jonathan, over the years have spoken extensively at the difference between both US rhetoric and US action, and for that matter, of any of the other actors. The United States acted. They acted, as described so eloquently before, in a different way than they have before. That is a message that is understood both in Iran and by the Houthis, and for that matter, by the US allies in Saudi Arabia, the Gulf countries. This is the United States taking action. Is it enough? I welcome this action. I am very one of those who have always said that I feel that we need not to be alone in this. This is not an Israeli multi-front war. We are literally at the forefront for the rest of the world, and I hate being melodramatic about it. So I'm very happy in that sense that the United States has taken such an action specifically against the Houthis, that they're sending weapons that are important both into Israel, and that in general, we're not standing alone as if this is all about Iran against Israel or the proxies against Israel. This is about the Islamic regime of Iran, as you said, doing what they do, and it's a very welcome step at this stage.
Since November 17 of last year, we saw the Houthis join the fight against Israel and the West at large. They are not hiding their intention to target either US, UK, or other partner vessels in the Red Sea or Bab el-Mandeb and adjacent waterways. General Kimmett, over 100 vessels have already been struck, and it doesn't seem like the Houthis are overly deterred, irrespective of messaging to the Iranians with the B-2 bombers, at least from what I read in the various public domain statements. Nonetheless, to what degree does such an event carry weight among the other tribes which pledged allegiance to the Houthis for the simple fact that they received the funds and munitions that the Houthis pledged from the Iranians, once again involving that connection in their various activities throughout Yemen and beyond?
Sadly, I don't think it's going to carry much of an actual practical message. The fact remains that Houthis have been successfully carrying out counter-ship operations, at least launching of counter-ship operations since October 7th. And the fact remains is that while there have been intercepted, in most cases destroyed, and no significant craft destroyed in the process, they have not yet been defeated. They are still, Muqawama resistance fighters, and the very fact that the B2 was used and perhaps knocked out a couple of facilities only, in my mind, emboldens their terrorist affiliates to say, look, if that's the best the U.S. could throw at us, let's keep doing this. So I'm glad to see that we're doing it. Kurilla's admission in the House Armed Services Committee that these are coming from Iran, but also that he has been unsuccessful in intercepting the vast majority of imports from Yemen and elsewhere from Iran, tells me that these resistance fighters, these terrorist fighters, aren't really deterred, won't be deterred, and unfortunately, they've got to find the same fate in Yemen that Sinwar found.
So with that, we have run out of time, so I'd like to thank General Kinnett,
All
Colonel
right.
Eisen,
So
and
that's
Mr.
the end of the Israeli news. What I want to do now is I want to go over that interview by Fox with Harris by Brett Barr. But before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the turmeric. This is a supplement that will bring down inflammation, and it's also an antioxidant. That's important for your immune system and also your cardiovascular system. Turmeric is synergistic with ashwagandha. Ashwagandha controls your cortisol levels, so you want to bring down those cortisol levels because in America, we have too much stress, and because of that, our cortisol levels are higher. In addition, when you don't sleep well, and you don't get into that REM cycle sleep, your cortisol levels are elevated, throughout the day. You're not reaching baseline or an ideal baseline for you. So, stress, lack of sleep brings up cortisol levels. And when you have cortisol levels that are high, then you have too much glucose in your bloodstream. And your immune system, when that's chronic, your immune system will go down. Your immune system won't be as functional and you'll get sick more often. So ashwagandha is really important to control your blood glucose levels and to control your cortisol levels. In addition, ashwagandha root, will bring down that inflammatory response. So it's going to help with your immune system and your cardiovascular system. They're synergistic together, right? And that's the reason why these two, with some other compounds, helps to reduce plaque in your arteries if you follow the protocol that I have mentioned. So please go to the store and get the turmeric and the ashwagandha. Vitamin K2, MK7, very important for bone health and also cardiovascular health. Take it with D3. Vitamin D3. NAC is very important to take. I added it to my protocol. What this is a compound that will increase your glutathione levels. Glutathione is very important to soak up free radicals. It's a different pathway to soak up free radicals. This is synergistic with C60. All right, so you're soaking up those free radicals, and that's really important for boosting up your immune system and also slowing down the aging process and reducing stress on the cell so the cell performs better. So NAC will boost up that glutathione level so it soaks up those free radicals. It also helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, especially when you take acetaminophen. In addition, NAC will help to get your body to reduce the anxiety. Or there are people that have anxiety issues. NAC can help with that. And by going into a more calm state, your body is in parasympathetic mode. When you're in parasympathetic mode, then what happens is your body can heal and be calm, and you're going to have lower cortisol levels. That's really important. And by being in parasympathetic mode, your body is healing and your immune system can get back up to proper levels in terms of response. If you're in sympathetic mode, then you're stressed out, cortisol levels are high, and your immune system, because of it being chronic, your immune system will go down. So please take NAC, get those glutathione levels up, soak up those free radicals, detoxify your liver and your kidney, especially if you've been taking acetaminophen because of headaches or pain or whatever. In addition, NAC helps with anxiety. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Omega-3 helps with your cardiovascular health. This will bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. Really important. Why? Because people that have high LDL levels and high free radical levels, well, what happens is that your LDL will oxidize. And when you have LDL that's oxidized, that builds up plaque, especially if you have inflammation within your vascular system. So you want to mitigate that. You want to try to prevent building up new plaque and reduce the plaque that has been built up. So please take omega-3, bring down your LDL levels, increase your HDL levels, and omega-3 is really important to prevent those red blood cells from sticking. Very important. This is synergistic with nattokinase to prevent overclotting, all right? Which is a big problem since the aftershock of 2020. So pay attention to me. I am the most comprehensive on covering and how to mitigate some of the problems of the 2020 crisis and the aftershock of the 2020 crisis. Nobody is more comprehensive than I am. Nobody. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the omega-3, help with your cardiovascular health, and this is synergistic with nattokinase. All right, let's play. All right, so Israeli police are examining dental images and DNA evidence to determine whether Sinwar was killed. So we'll see. We should be knowing soon here. All right, let's go to the actual interview by Fox with Harris. Sorry.
President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal?
Let me just interrupt this for a quick second. It's important to mention that they were supposed to start at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so they were supposed to start at 5 p.m. and she was late, and she couldn't. They wanted to postpone it to 5:15. And if you pay attention to what she's doing, she's kind of trying to filibuster the interview to reduce the number of questions and the pushback from the interviewer. It's very obvious when you watch this. So just keep in mind, they were supposed to start at 5. So Brett is kind of rushing through to try to get more questions in because she was running the clock out. She was running the clock out by being late, and she was running the clock out by just filibustering the question. All right. Now, so that there's that dynamic. In addition, at the end, her staff was telling him to stop the interview near the end. All right. So the whole idea was that they were going to start at 5. They were going to do 30 minutes, and then they would be able to take that package that was unedited and show it on Fox at 6 o'clock. She shows up at 5:15, tries to filibuster. I believe the interview was about 26 minutes or so. And Fox was having problems being able to package for the 6 o'clock showing. All right. But they were trying to play games so Brett couldn't ask more questions or have some sort of rebuttal on what her answer was, some sort of clarification. So with that said, the Harris campaign was playing games. All right, they were playing games with what was going on here. That's obvious. Now let's begin.
Estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm gonna talk about.
Yeah, but do you,
right
just
now,
a
which
number,
is-
do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to
You know what
Okay.
I'm going to talk. You know what I'm going to talk about. Let's just get to the point. She doesn't want to get to the details. She doesn't want to the what are the numbers. All right. Now you got to remember, she was already 15 minutes late. She was already 15 minutes late. And you know what I'm going to talk about. See, she didn't even get to she couldn't even answer. I'm not even 40 seconds into this damn interview, and she's already screwed up. I'll tell you, she is an empty suit, a total empty suit that's been elevated because of DEI. And who you know, and you know, putting her knees on the ground and doing things with her mouth.
that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of
I'm not
apprehensions.
finished. We have
It's a
an
rough estimate
immigration
of 6
system.
million.
She's not finished, but she's late for 15 minutes. Yes, Your Highness. That and what you see in 54 seconds is exactly what people on her staff are complaining about. She's not prepared. She thinks she's Queen Latifah. She's holier. She thinks she's holier than thou. And everyone needs to pay attention to what she has to say. She's an unprepared candidate, an empty suit that can't answer a question. 54 seconds in.
Into the country. And let me just finish, I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the US or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before.
See, she keeps on running the clock. All right? She's running the clock. She's late and she's running the clock and not answering the question.
The Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act,
Before.
before the bipartisan.
Get to the answer.
The first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the
And-
U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially
so,
a pathway to citizenship for
please
the.
finish?
Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding,
But
please?
this,
You have to let me finish.
you had
please.
the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and
in
they
the
didn't
middle
bring
of
up that.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like.
But she keeps on running the clock. She doesn't, you know. And because he knows what she's doing, she sucked away 15 minutes of the interview, right? By being late. He's trying to push as much as he can to get into the interview now. And so it makes it seem as though she is being attacked by Brett. But she's the passive aggressive one.
Finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We. Architects.
You know, the problem with
I
her.
bet you didn't know this. In North Gaza, after the conflict, some families are so hungry they tie rocks around their waist.
The problem with her, the problem with Kamala, or Kamala, you know, she just wants to do run-on answers. It just runs on and on and on and on. It doesn't answer anything.
Recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things
What are they?
To address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges. What we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings. What we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions. And
do you notice that your hair is parted to her right side to cover her ear more than her left? Why is that? I wonder. Those are some big earrings. I wonder if there's a chick in those.
The United States was not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
but actually is focused on fixing
Six Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the six Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Mungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases.
Of course.
There's no question about that.
Then why are you mentioning?
There's no question about that.
See?
And I can't imagine
mention.
the pain that the families of those victims
she's
have
running the clock out. Running the clock
a
out.
loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock, trying to hold it all together
Madam Vice President,
to ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution.
Trump basically said, once he's president, he's going to deport. The solution solved. You don't need more laws. The laws are already on the books.
Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Mungari's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what
I
I'm
will
saying.
tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely.
Wasting
But
time.
let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions.
Wait, so let's blame Trump. Wait, she's saying, let's blame Trump for her policy that ended up, or the Biden-Harris policy that ended up where 3 females were killed. They had nothing to do with Trump. Because I'm sure that at this time, I would have to roll tape back, but I think he was worried about his Stormy Daniels case in New York. He was too busy with lawfare, from the Democratic Party. I'll tell you, she is as dumb as a box of rocks. She's an empty suit. An empty suit.
Right. In all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had it broken.
Future of fast food automation is here. Hi, I'm Yusuke from Misa Robotics. Our fry station robot Flippy has already fried over.
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and
they've been told by the administration to let them in. It's that simple. It's that simple. What we need is gun turrets on the border wall, and it's automatic. Run by robots. Protect the border. We're being invaded. It's a problem. This woman is an idiot. She's an idiot, and all she's going to do is push amnesty.
I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted.
Process more cases. See, what it is build up an administrative state so you can process these people so they get legalization. That's what she's pushing. Not, you know what, you're in this country illegally, get the fuck out.
Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how the system works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
There
that's
were
how the
90
system
plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran.
This is something that Brett didn't bring up, but if you remember, roll back the tape. She was avoiding the border in the early days of the administration. You remember that? She wasn't willing to go down there when there was a problem. Now, if they're working so hard, don't you think that she should have got her fucking ass on a plane to Texas or to Arizona or some of the other border states that are dealing with the problem and get the job done and fill up the gaps to stop the inflow? No, because the Democratic Party wants the inflow. They want to build up an administrative state so they can just rubber stamp and process these people and make them legal. Because they're hoping that they'll vote Democrat and they're going to turn a red state into a blue state. That's how the system works, according to Kamala.
And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free healthcare. Do you still support those things?
Fuck no.
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
They should not get these freebies for being here illegally. No, no. What about supporting our veterans that had their legs blown off because because of roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan? What about our elderly and taking care of them? You take care of your own first. Fucking A.
That's the case. You chose a running mate, Tim Walz, who governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So
support and enforce federal law, but we're in the process of trying to change the federal law so we can play games. Oh, thanks for telling us that. Maybe I need to run for president to save this country. I don't know. I just think our country cannot be dealing with people like this, but our country is run by individuals like her, and we're in danger. You know, the Robinson family, danger, danger with the robot. You know, danger, danger. We're run by a bunch of empty suits. God, she's an idiot.
She said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
That's a total lie. She wants to decriminalize it. You kidding me? It's the whole Democratic Party.
But let's be very clear.
Let's be very
I'm the
clear.
only person who's running for president who was prosecuted.
So what?
Transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the...
Trump is the only candidate running for president that actually has run a business.
Lahara cartel, to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that.
And Trump is the only presidential candidate in this election cycle, right, that actually has built businesses and understands that there are expenses and revenues, and you have to have budgets, and you have to have a profit, and you have to worry about cash flows.
President, I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law.
I will follow
Guys,
the law.
it's crunch time, and any dollar that you can give to help my father deliver a massive victory matters now.
It's really important to pay attention when the Democrats say we'll follow the law. That's code for we're going to change the law, so we're going to force it on you, you conservative, you right-wing conservative that doesn't want to spend taxpayer dollars on transgender sex changes. You right-winger. We're only 11 minutes and 14 seconds into this, and she is totally bombed. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get Myotrol. This helps to maintain muscle, to build muscle. If you're an athlete or you're a bodybuilder, take Myotrol. When you get older, it's really important to take Myotrol every day to maintain your muscle In addition, it helps to improve the health of your mitochondria. That's really important because you need ATP to maintain muscle. So please go to my store if you're an athlete, if you are just working out just to stay fit, if you're getting older and you want to maintain your muscle mass or build more muscle, take Myotrol every day so you're building up and maintaining that muscle mass. It's important because as you get older, muscle mass really declines, your energy levels decline, and you need ways to boost up your energy and to maintain that muscle. And I've been telling you about how to boost up your ATP. So pay attention. And that's part of the reason why by taking the supplements that I offer, you're slowing down the aging process and you look beautiful like me. All right. Instead of like Alex Jones, that's actually younger than I am, but he looks 15 years older. I mean, really, let's think about that. Alex Jones is 2 years younger than I am, but he looks 15 years older. And he sells supplements. Do you really think he's taking them? Do you really think he follows an anti-aging protocol or does cleanses on a regular basis like what Dr. Group is telling him to do? I don't think so, because the proof is in the pudding. He's too fat. He's lost all his hair. And he's aged a lot.
And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aide said that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition
Well,
surgeries
you know what, you gotta
happened
take
during
responsibility for what
his
happened in
presidency.
your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in
So
black and white.
would you still advocate for using?
All right,
that
so
gender-
wait, this is an important piece here. On 11:54, 11 minutes and 54 seconds into the interview. Let me repeat, 11:54 seconds into the interview, she's saying that you have to take responsibility of your administration. But yet she's not taking responsibility for what happened at the border. Look at what happened at the border. Your administration did that. Those 3 females were killed because of your policy. She didn't take responsibility. She didn't even show up early in the administration to deal with the crisis as waves and more waves and more waves were coming through.
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas at $20 million on that ad.
It's total bullshit.
I mean, the issue
that's total bullshit. When he was being interviewed on Bloomberg, which is not pro-Trump at all, but what was interesting is the crowd was pro-Trump. The business owners, that was the amazing thing. That Bloomberg as an organization is not pro-Trump. They are orange man bad. All right. Why? Because they're pro-globalism. And you had business owners, small to medium-sized business owners in the crowd at the Chicago Economic Club. And there were many people that were for Trump in that crowd. And that was the surprising factor. And he goes into detail through storytelling on why tariffs and his economic policies and tax and reduction in taxes and bringing back manufacturing is so important to what America needs. And he had an hour interview, not knowing any of the questions, with a hostile, organization like Bloomberg. For him, it's hostile to him, and he hit a home run.
as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They
Our plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the
Her
backbone.
plan, all right, let's go into detail here. Her plan for affordable housing is to give them some sort of tax break of, I don't know, with $25,000, $50,000, whatever it is. All right. Now, if you're selling a house and you know that your buyer potentially is going to be using that as a tax break, don't you think that prices will go up? It's the same problem that we have with tuition in universities. Once the government is willing to back the loan at a higher rate, the universities jack up the tuition. It's very simple. The moment government stops underwriting these loans, the tuition at these universities are going to drop. So housing prices are going to elevate with her plan. Trump's plan is basically this: drill, baby, drill. So you're bringing down the cost of goods across the economy and have manufacturing, so you have economic clustering, so you have more GDP, which means that debt to GDP ratio goes down. Amazing how that works. And have less taxes, so you have more money in your pocket, so you're spending, which boosts up the GDP. And when you're boosting up the GDP and more people are, there's more activity in the economy is growing, and there's tax revenues that are coming in to pay down the debt that we have. That's his plan. That's his plan. How could she say he doesn't have a plan? Let's rewind the tape. And we're only 12 minutes and 42 seconds. She's a retard.
American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though. Our plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to.
Her plan for affordable housing is inflation. It's going to cause housing to go up. The cost of housing to go up. Trust me on that. Trust me, it will.
Strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite.
No. What they said was her plan is inflationary. Trump's plan is more inflationary. That's what they said. And in addition, the thing is that they think it's siloed because they're overreacting on the tariff concept. And Trump goes into detail on Bloomberg when he was being interviewed on why tariffs work. And that is, it's a negotiating tool to bring manufacturing back to America. And oh, by the way, that's exactly what Reagan did with the automobile companies. He didn't want Japan sending automobiles made in Japan into the United States. He said, make your manufacturing in the United States and you can sell them in the United States, no problem. And hire people. Great. It's a win-win. It's a win-win for Toyota. It's the same thing that Trump's doing. But these globalists don't want you to do that, because these globalists are running on the page from Jack Walsh for MBAs, thinking that manufacturing should be outsourced to low-cost countries and the United States shouldn't be making anything. That's basically what they're saying. The problem is that the economic clustering starts to die off. And what happens, you're less vibrant. And you need innovation. And innovation happens when you're making things. When you're making stuff, cars, shoes, clothing, electronics, biotech, anything, pharmaceuticals, everything, anything and everything. you have the ability to take a look at the process and improve it. And there's the innovation. But if you outsource it, you don't have innovation in your country. So Trump's policy is actually holistically better off for the economy. Not this, not taking a page out of let's have more fucking globalism. Get real.
Session by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that
because he ran a business. They ran a business, and oh, by the way, that first 2 years, pre-COVID under Trump was actually really good.
As for what we would do as president of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that
Israel did kill him, did kill Sinwar.
Out by several analysts, and it's the one that I tend to agree with. My best guess is that there's more war, there's more genocide, that Israel continues until it achieves its quote-unquote total victory, right? They're already fully engaged, not only in Gaza, but also in Lebanon, and they're likely going to strike Iran, right? So that's the most likely scenario. But I don't think we can dismiss outright the possibility that Israel views what has happened today as an opportunity, and that specifically Netanyahu views this as an opportunity to declare victory. The mission is accomplished moment. He could call for a snap election. He would likely win because his polling numbers were already soaring before this news, and they're going to likely be higher after this news of this killing of Yahya Sinwar, right? One other point on this that I think is important to bear in mind, and that is that Gaza has been effectively destroyed. As Norman Finkelstein said in a recent interview, he said Gaza is gone, right? The UN put a report out 6 months ago now, saying that it would take 80 years to rebuild Gaza. It will take about 14 years just to remove the unexploded bombs.
Just remember, it was the Biden and Harris administration that wanted to hogtie Netanyahu and his operations in Gaza. If they had their ceasefire months ago, this motherfucker wouldn't be dead. This is proof positive on why it's so important to get the job done.
Then they will have already won, because they will already have achieved their ethnic cleansing, if not the entire Gaza Strip, and they will have achieved ethnically cleansing at least a significant portion of it. Keeping in mind that many Palestinians have already left. Estimates suggest that perhaps 200 to 300,000 Palestinians have already made their way out of Gaza. Difficult to blame them. Because they're exhausted, right? People are just wanting to survive. So based on that calculation, it's possible. I'm not saying it's the likely scenario. I don't want anyone to misinterpret what I'm saying, but it is possible that Israel views this as an opportunity. We get our hostages. They'll say we get our hostages back, right? We can say that we killed Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Deif, Ismail Haniyeh. Of course, they've also degraded. They will say they've degraded Hezbollah, and they're also going to likely get the ethnic cleansing of at least a significant part of the Gaza Strip.
Mohammed Al-Masri, many thanks indeed. As you say, nothing is definitive. We don't know for certain what's going to happen, but it's very good to have you here to speculate.
It's great. This is a glorious day to have Sinwar eliminated. All right, back to Empty Suit.
I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward. And they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So, you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in the recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that—
What did the Democratic Party do when Kavanaugh was being nominated for the Supreme Court? Or what about that Amy Barrett, I think it was her name? The Democrats don't like conservative judges. And they try to make up stories to demonize the candidate. I'm telling you, the Democratic Party, they're like mobsters. They're like mobsters. They want to say that the right-wing conspiracy and the right-wingers and all this stuff. You know what? It's the left-wingers that are screwing up this country. Look at just the. Do you think the BLM movement came out of right-wing? The Republican right-wing party? Of course not. It came out of the left-wing party, and the Democrats loved it. And not only that, all these schools that were donating, to support the BLM movement, and it was a big, fraud.
Based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
That is
more
than
turning the page.
70% of people.
That is about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and president behind the president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You and
Vice
I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
level of
become,
power.
but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, the former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him
Madam
instead
Vice
of
President,
the American people.
If
People
that's
are
the
tired
case,
of that.
if that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a
So
cakewalk
are they
for
misguided,
anyone.
the 50%?
Listen,
Are they stupid?
Oh
What is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American
19 minutes
people.
in, 19 minutes into the, exactly 19 minutes into the interview, she says this, all right? And the enemy within is the national security state. The enemy within is the ones that are trying to maintain the status quo of the administrative state and globalism. They don't want Donald Trump because he's going to be a wrecking ball for their global order. All right, that's a good thing because the administrative state and the national security state became too big, too powerful, and circumventing Congress. The dossiers, the lawfare, the crazy stuff that was going on with the FBI, not investigating the Hunter laptop adequately in the last election. And so the FBI did election interference. So don't tell me that there isn't an enemy from within. There is. And not only that, there's text messages from FBI and congressmen and senators that were trying to go after Trump, you know, saying that he was an enemy from within. And he was some sort of, you know, stooge for, you know, the Russians. Really? Really? What's more probable, that Trump is a stooge for the Russians, or that our administrative state and our national security state is trying to hold power and they don't want, you know, a person like Trump in the office because they can't control him, and that he wants them restructured? I mean, let's be honest here. That's the enemy from within is our national security state, our bloated administrative state. The enemy within is ones that are benefiting from globalization, but not the middleman. Start asking questions about, let's say, subsidies with farm subsidies. All right. And you're going to start noticing that a lot of those farm subsidies are helping big ag, not little ag, not little agriculture, not little farms, big farms, big corporation farms like Cargill.
Suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked the question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest man. No, it's true. We have a ticket. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
He was asking.
No, that's not.
The enemy from within is using the lawfare. It is related.
You just showed in all fairness and respect to you.
The question that we asked.
He didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and
Maybe
I
they
both
would
know-
show the actual question before he answered if they had more time, because you show up on time, honey. Don't say, well, they, cut the question out and then not tell your audience that you showed up 15 minutes late.
That he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest.
We had the national security state go after American citizens through the CIA collecting data and then lie about it to Congress when they were asked. You think you think the national security state isn't weaponized against the American citizen? You're living in a dream world if you think that. The national security state has weaponized the system against the American citizen. And this is the whole point. The administrative state, the national security state, there are elements within it that are an enemy. Shit. There's a high probability that the CIA actually shot JFK. Or at least paid organizations to shoot him.
Talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the president of the United States in the United States of America should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald
Mark Milley and the chief justice, or the chief of staff, and some of the the brass, the Joint Chiefs. They're part of the administrative state. They're part of the national security state. This is the point I'm making. She's referencing people that are the enemy.
being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump, you call Donald Trump, he's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told
we
many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden.
The Trump train.
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people. Joe Biden is not on ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
But
is.
you talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George
is.
Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a
Trump,
fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people.
If she couldn't see the mental decline of Biden, how the hell does she have the quote skill set to even have an opinion on if Trump is mentally fit for office? You have to question her judgment. She's an empty suit. I'm telling you, she's an empty suit. She doesn't, and she's been elevated. The thing is that she's been elevated to higher positions without really going through the gauntlet and not really performing. She is the queen. She is Queen Latifah of DEI.
which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out, even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President.
These people she is referring to are enemies of the state because they're trying to support this bloated administrative and national security state that actually tried to use their power to make up stories, to demonize and to do lawfare, and to circumvent a presidency while Trump was in office by slow walking policies because it was going against the status quo. And the thing is Trump, as president, when he was president, all right, is the head of the executive branch. Not the department heads. They're not. They have to abide by what the president says. Within legal means, right? But the thing is that they weren't. They were slow walking, and they were trying to circumvent, and they were trying to demonize, and they played political. There was a lot of political warfare that was going on top of all the lawfare and stuff. The bottom line is that Americans need to wake up and say the national security state and the administrative state needs to be truncated because you have bad apples in there that are actually too powerful, and they are circumventing our democracy or our constitutional republic.
Two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands. Okay, this attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the number one threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, in the several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel.
They have kept on telling Israel to do a ceasefire. And Israel, if they abided by what Biden-Harris administration wanted, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran would get stronger. That has been proven out throughout the decades. In addition, if they did the ceasefire, they wouldn't have killed Sinwar. That just happened today. You need to be forceful. And if Iran is such a problem, we're going nuclear, then you need to decapitate the theocratic regime in Iran and destroy their capability in nuclear weapons. It's that simple. She didn't say China because she's on the payroll of China. Let's think about, what's her involvement with China actually as a lawyer? What about her husband with China? What about Waltz with China? Doesn't this seem really, strange that there's a lot of China involvement and tangential activity on a professional basis? Sounds like the Hunter Biden family.
I was there.
I was
Most
there?
recently
She's
in
like
the
a
Situation
horse.
Room in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
But those
is,
proxies were
and
funded
my
by
commitment to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put
But here are
Iran in check.
the estimates in
And then it
billions
was during Donald Trump's
that go
administration
towards
that
the
Iran
regime.
that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches. Not to mention how Donald Trump has
all of this money
has treated and
has
talked
gone
about
in the
America's
past few
military
years.
and military service people,
Critics
calling
say that
them
it goes to
suffers and
Hezbollah,
losers,
Hamas,
has diminished
and who
the
we're talking
significance.
over each other. I
Well,
apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a
And there
decision
are
that
critics
they
who
feel.
look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things
There's more to say. I have
there
much more to
are
say,
a lot of
actually.
things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and
Yes.
that's why we
I invite
invited you.
everyone to go to kamalaharris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do.
And that's why
intend
we
to do to
invited you
strengthen
here,
our economy.
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
And
they're giving me a hard rap.
well, I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the
It's
time.
good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
I don't think she did that well on that interview. All right. And Trump did much better with the Bloomberg interview. And it was a hostile interviewer that didn't like Trump. I think people were saying that Brett's not a Trump guy. He's kind of like an anti-Trump guy. All right. But she blew it on that interview. And I think that she's confirming everything that I've been saying for months, and that is she's an empty suit. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the olive leaf extract. Olive leaf extract helps your immune system and your cardiovascular system. How? It brings down inflammation, and it also helps to lower your LDL levels and increase your HDL levels for your cholesterol. Vitamin B complex, really important for cellular metabolism. The first 5 B vitamins are really important for your mitochondria. It helps with the electron transport chain. Vitamin B complex also helps with your neurons. This is very important as you get older. You need to be taking vitamin B complex. Zeolite, very important to take to get rid of heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals out of your body. A lot of people don't realize, but just normal living, you're going to start to accumulate toxins, and you need to detoxify your body. Take zeolite every day. Take 2 drops underneath your tongue. Take it with filtered water and take it every day. Or some people will just detoxify their body maybe once or twice a year. In that regard, just take maybe 4 drops or so underneath your tongue. Drink it with filtered water, and just use up the bottle. Then that way, each day you take 4 drops underneath your tongue. And little drops, just little drops, 4 little drops, and then throughout the throughout that time period, use up the bottle and do that once or twice a year. It's that simple. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the zeolite. Vitamin D3, very important for calcium absorption. It's a gene expression cofactor, really important for your cells. And oh, by the way, if your cell needs to go into apoptosis, especially because it's infected, vitamin D helps with that. Very important during the cold season and the 2020 aftershock. Vitamin C, important to boost up your immune system and helps with your skin. If you're sick because of the cold season, take a double dose of vitamin C. Make sure you drink it with filtered water. Ubiquinol, very important to take. This is the active form for CoQ10. I've been taking ubiquinol for many, many, many years. It's important because it improves your energy levels. It's an antioxidant, and it helps with neural health. As you get older, it's important to take ubiquinol to maintain that neural health. Remember, ubiquinol is the active form for CoQ10. It's a very high quality product. Please go to my store and get the ubiquinol. And lastly, we talked about this, nattokinase. Nattokinase is fibrinolytic, so help to break up clots. That's really important in the aftershock of 2020. And oh, by the way, it also brings down LDL and increases your HDL levels. So that's very important because it's synergistic with olive leaf extract if you want to stack them together. So please go to my store and get the nattokinase. Let's hear what's going on with Al Jazeera here.
We'll pursue our enemies to the end, anytime and anywhere. The circle is closed, but the mission is not over. The IDF will continue to operate in the Gaza Strip for years to come. And now the series of achievements and the elimination of Sinwar must be taken advantage of to bring about the return of the abductees and the replacement of Hamas's rule. On this day, we will also remember the painful price of the war, all the murdered and the martyrs, and we will strengthen all of our heroic soldiers who have been working for over a year in all arenas to ensure that never again. Let's bring in Gideon Levy, an author and columnist with the Israeli newspaper Haaretz. He joins us live from Tel Aviv. So some developments since we last spoke, Gideon. A, first of all, it's been confirmed. B, that it happened yesterday, Wednesday. But what I actually want to pick up on is what Benny Gantz said there, because I think it's really important to look at his statement saying that the IDF, that's the Israeli military, of course, will continue to operate in the Gaza Strip for years to come. That is not what many people are saying. People are saying this is now an opportunity to negotiate again, a ceasefire, the return of the captives. But perhaps this is an insight into what Netanyahu is thinking, which is that nothing changes.
Which also shows you that there is no real opposition in Israel. If one of the most dominant figures in the opposition, the one who has the biggest chances to succeed Netanyahu, speaks and wants exactly the same, namely the continuance of the Israeli presence in the Gaza Strip. And therefore, all the talkings now about a deal, which are very justified, obviously, ignore one fact that Netanyahu does not want and is not ready to withdraw from the Gaza Strip. And I have big doubts that the deal can be achieved without the withdrawal of Israeli troops.
What do you make of the intel, Israel's intel in the Gaza Strip? Because it certainly differs from its intelligence in Hezbollah, which it's managed to successfully decapitate, according to many analysts, in Lebanon. It took Israel a year of fighting in Gaza, many years before that, as our correspondent Kimberly Halkett was saying. The US was also very keen to see Yahya Sinwar captured or killed. And now, finally, he is in an open firefight, not through an assassination, a targeted assassination, but almost by accident. What does this say about the state of Israel's intelligence in Gaza?
Not only this, you didn't mention also the fact that Israel has no clue where the hostages are being kept. That's also a proof to the limits of Israel's intelligence in the Gaza Strip, which is quite surprising, by the way, because Israel was present physically in Gaza for so many years. The Israeli Shabak, the Israeli Secret Services, has their contacts there much more than in Lebanon, and they are also much more active in Gaza with all kinds of deals with people who want to get out from Gaza for medical treatment or other things. They are blackmailing them, and still with all this huge apparatus, both with human beings and with technology. And it took them 1 year to find someone who is in a very small piece of land.
Gideon, I'm just going to interrupt you there because we have got Netanyahu speaking, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking. Let's listen in.
And those who will surrender and also release our captives will remain alive. I also say that all those who will try to harm the captives will be dead. And we will also settle a long-standing score with them. We will continue to work until the end of the war for all the region and for the... We are saying that the darkness is no longer here and that the light will come soon. Hassan Nasrallah died and many other leaders also died. So this is the beginning of the end. We have a big opportunity in order to eliminate the axis of evil and to work together for a future of peace and stability in the region. Together, we can eliminate this axis of evil and also to build a better future. Now, in front of the world, it is clear now why we have insisted to continue this war and why we have insisted to enter Rafah, so that we can reach all the leaders of Hamas, including Yahya Sinwar and many other leaders. I salute all the efforts exerted by our soldiers and also by the Shin Bet security. We have demonstrated today that all those who try to harm us, this is what happened to them, and how the forces of good can always beat the forces of evil and darkness. The war is still ongoing and it's costly, and I express my sincerest condolences to all the families of the soldiers who died. They are heroes, especially during the last days. We are closer to victory. As King David said, I will eliminate all my enemies and I will not go back before achieving victory. People of Israel, we are currently at war and a lot of challenges are still facing us, and we have to remain resilient and we need to stand firm on our ground and to continue to fight, and with the blessings of God we will achieve victory.
Let's bring back Gideon Levy, who was listening in for...
Now, does that seem like Israel's losing, or is Israel winning? See, Richter is he's anti-Israel, right? And guess what? This targeted striking, and killing off the heads of Hezbollah and Hamas, and going after the heads of the theocratic regime in Iran is the right move here. This is getting the job done, and not to let up until the mission is accomplished and Iran is completely destroyed with that theocracy. And by doing that, it allows for the secular population to have freedom, to have representative government, and to live in prosperity instead of under the ire of a Shia rule, this theocratic regime. It's crazy.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu making his first statement since the confirmation of Yahya Sinwar being killed in Gaza. What struck me, many things struck me actually. First of all, that the war is still not over, that The Israelis will continue full force until soft hostages are returned, which suggests that Netanyahu is looking to do that militarily rather than through negotiations and a ceasefire. Also, that Hamas will not rule Gaza and that this is an opportunity for people to free themselves. But he also justified the military, the Israeli military, going into Rafah, because this, of course, is where that gunfight happened, where Yahya Sinwar was killed. Also, if we remember, this was the US's red line, wasn't it? The red line that came to nothing in the end. But it said that the Israelis could not go into Rafah, into a ground operation where many people were sheltering, and that there was a red line to the US. The Israelis
doesn't matter what the red line is for the US, because what did the Ribby say? I said this 2 weeks ago, all right? Maybe a week and a half ago. The Ribby told Netanyahu in the early 1980s. It's prophetic. Get the job done with the 7-front war, all right? By not being hubris, not being afraid, and don't listen to the international community. Just get the job done. And then there will be peace. And every decade that has gone by since the 1980s, when the Israelis placated to the international pressure, or were afraid, or were hubris, lost. As long as they follow what the Ribby told Netanyahu to do, Israel is not going to fail. It's not going to fail, Scott Ritter. It's not going to fail. They're not going to fail as long as they follow what the Ribby told them to do. All right? Because they have failed every single decade because they didn't follow what the Ribby told them to do. Well, here we go. Do you think it's just by accident that he is eliminated during Sukkot, the first day of Sukkot? No, it's not by accident. There's a divine hand here. There's a blessing that's coming down to the soul root of Jacob. Remember, October is an extremely strong for Esau. He's Esau. He comes from the soul root of Esau. And October is a very strong month for the soul root of Esau. But on the first day of Sukkot, the blessing comes down for Jacob to be able to eliminate this motherfucker. Yeah, Scott, Israel's losing. Yeah, right.
Now Netanyahu is taking this as justification.
Yes, absolutely, without any surprise. As I said before, his declaration that Netanyahu has no intention to put an end to the war and no intention to withdraw from Gaza. And now he can see it as a proof to his policy, namely that only by force. The fact that the hostages are not released yet and will not be released.
The war is Gaza, Hezbollah, the war is Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Syria, and Iran. The war ain't done yet, dude. Don't make the mistake that was done in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, and in the 2020s. Don't make that mistake. Get the job done. And that's what Netanyahu said.
Without the deal, can be ignored by him because for him the hostages are not the first priority from the very beginning. And I think that he follows his ideology. It's not only his personal interests as people tend to think, it's also his ideology, namely believing only in living on the sword and only living on controlling by military force the Palestinian people. No other way is open in his eyes. And here we see it in his speech.
And there's a lot of talk, isn't there, of who might be replacing Yahya Sinwar. And certainly this will be a topic of discussion in the coming days as names start to come forward. But it actually doesn't seem
that's the end of my transmission. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the health products, follow the protocols that I've been mentioning on multiple videos. You can purchase anti-aging boxes that I have curated for you, so it's easy to purchase, or you can buy individual items. It's up to you. But take the supplements, improve your health, boost up your immune system, and slow down the aging process. It works, but you have to be vigilant and you have to be proactive with your health. In addition, please help support my work by following me on the 4 channels on YouTube that I have. I also have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Please follow me on all those 7 channels. You can also follow me on X. I have 2 channels on X, and I also have 1 channel on GETTR. So by doing that, you are following my work. I also have just recently started populating a TikTok channel. So all the links are in the description of this video. Go in the video description of this video and click the links. Make sure you subscribe to TikTok, follow me on X, follow me on GETTR. Make sure you sign and subscribe to all 7 channels that I have for YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. And also be a paid member if you can to my Patreon channel to help support my work. My videos are for free. I have thousands of videos for free. You learn a lot, all right? And, you know, you can get entertained too at the same time. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and improve your health. Thank you for listening. Please share the links. Please follow me. Have a nice day. And oh, by the way, getting rid of Sinwar was the right thing to do. It's getting the job done.